Welcome to today's webinar, Bidders Call 2016 Three-Branch Institute on Improving Child Safety and Preventing Child Fatalities, brought to you by NCSL. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to Megan McCann. Megan, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the Bidders webinar for the Three-Branch Institute on Improving Child Safety and Preventing Child Fatalities. The Three-Branch Institute is a collaborative project of the National Governors Association Center for Best Practices, the National Conference of State Legislatures, Casey Family Program, the National Center for State Courts, and the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. My name is Megan McCann. I'm a policy specialist with the National Conference of State Legislatures Children and Families Program, and I will be your moderator for the day. We are also joined today on the webinar by some of our colleagues at Casey Family Programs, who we would like to thank for the generous support of the Three-Branch Institute. Today's webinar will last approximately an hour, depending on how many questions we receive. This call is meant to be a chance for you to hear more about the Policy Institute process, the application and selection process, and ask questions, be they generic or specific to your state. A few logistics before we begin. In the lower right-hand, well actually it's at the bottom right-hand corner now, we have a Q&A box. If you'd please introduce yourselves when you log in, I see many of you already have, so that we can see who's joining us by providing your name, state, and which branch you are with. In addition, we encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar using the same Q&A box. I'll now turn it over, or actually, in addition, in the top right corner, we have a blue bar graph with a document behind it. In there, you'll find a couple of documents that might be helpful. They were sent out on the 14th and earlier this week. It's the RFP and the project summary and Q&A, or FAQ. So feel free to access those if you have not already. So now I'll turn it over to my colleague at NCSL, Nina Williams-Bang, who will talk a little bit more about NCSL.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon. My name is Nina, and I work in the Children and Families Program also here at NCSL. My other colleagues on this project include Megan McCann, Kyle Ramirez-Fry, and Rochelle Fenzel. For those of you who are not familiar with us, NCSL is a bipartisan organization. All legislators and all legislative staff from all 50 states and the territories are members. We're headquartered in Denver, Colorado, where we have a program for every policy issue that a state legislator would have to deal with. We also have a Washington, D.C. office which functions to lobby Congress on behalf of states. NCSL's mission is to improve the quality and effectiveness of state legislatures, to promote policy innovation and innovation among state legislatures, and to ensure that state legislatures have a strong, cohesive voice in the federal system. We're very excited to partner with Casey Family Programs, NGA, the National Center for State Courts, and the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges for the 2016 Three-Branch Institute. We've been partnering on the Three-Branch Institute since 2009, working closely with state legislators on the state teams to ensure their engagement, to answer their questions, and to provide whatever research or assistance they may need to successfully participate in this initiative. I'll now turn this over to Alex Cawthorn with the NGA Center, who will describe their work and the Three-Branch Institute generally.
Thank you, Nina. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex Cawthorn, a Senior Policy Analyst with the Economic, Human Services, and Workforce Division here at NGA. For those of you who may not be familiar with NGA, we are a bipartisan organization of the nation's governors. Through NGA, governors share best practices, speak with a collective voice on national policy, and develop innovative solutions that improve state government. Like NCSL, NGA is very excited to continue the tradition of strong partnership with our fellow three-branch organizations. And we look forward to working with states, hopefully many of you here on the call, to address very serious issues concerning the safety of children and families involved with or at risk of involvement in the child welfare system. So I'm now going to provide you with an overview of the effort, as well as what the technical assistance will look like, and talk a little bit more about the purpose of this project. But I'll start by sharing a little bit more information about the Policy Institute process in general, and then go into a little bit more background on this institute in particular. As some of you may know, the NGA Center and its three-branch partner organizations have hosted a number of policy institutes and academies over the last several years focused on safely reducing the number of children in foster care and improving outcomes for kids and families involved in the child welfare system. As a result of that experience, we have a rich set of examples of what works best, and we are constantly refining our efforts to make them as useful as possible for governors and their staff, as well as their colleagues in the legislative and judicial branches. While the substance may vary by theme, the Policy Institute approach provides states with 12 to 18 months of intensive technical assistance, during which multidisciplinary teams of senior state officials and others come together to jointly craft a strategic policy plan with a common goal and then work together to begin its implementation. The typical Institute process involves one or more site visits to each state, one or two all-state meetings, and targeted technical assistance that consists of webinars and conference calls sponsored by the NGA Center and its branch partner organizations. Three-branch states should expect regular interaction with project staff as well as the faculty of national experts that will be assembled to support this institute. We've found that this is often a very unique opportunity for a state. The Policy Institute creates a forum for cross-branch and cross-agency collaboration as well as joint decision-making. Institutes also provide exposure to outside experts as well as your peers in other states, and this is something that isn't typically a part of your workday. In recent years, we've completed 2 iterations of the Three-Branch Institute, one focused on increasing permanency for adolescents in foster care, and the other on improving the social and emotional well-being of children in the foster care system. States that have participated in these institutes have seen new partnerships and collaboration flourish, and that has often led to real outcomes for children and families. For example, one state noted that the Three-Branch Institute was very helpful as that state would not have combined efforts across their branches otherwise. Another state acknowledged that the Institute led to a clear recognition of the shared responsibility among the 3 branches. Other states have lauded our action planning process, stating that it puts stakeholders on the same page and provides a shared vision and values. Engagement in the Institute process has led to tangible results for all of the states that we've had an opportunity to engage. As part of the Three-Branch Institute on improving child safety and preventing child fatalities, states will have a focused opportunity to mobilize the capacity, the resources, and the commitment of all 3 branches toward a common vision and integrated approach for ensuring the safety of children known to the child welfare system or those children that are at risk of child welfare involvement. We would like to emphasize that rather than reinventing the wheel, state plans are expected to integrate the most relevant findings and recommendations from existing efforts and successful or promising strategies in your state and expand upon those efforts. States might also want to draw upon the findings of the Federal Commission to Eliminate Child Abuse and Neglect Fatalities. The Commission recently released detailed information and recommendations for states to consider in trying to address child fatalities caused by child maltreatment. The Three-Branch Institute is also a vehicle to test new thinking and approaches to measuring and assessing the safety of children and youth that are receiving child welfare services. The Institute aims to help states provide strong leadership and leverage strategic partnerships to develop a proactive, preventative, and comprehensive approach to child safety. States will also have an opportunity to consider the latest research and emerging tools and technologies for child safety, such as predictive risk modeling. Participating states will develop a fuller understanding of the policies and practices that drive funding and practice improvement with regard to child safety and risk. And states will also have an opportunity to examine state spending and programmatic resources that could have the greatest impact on children at risk of removal, entry, or reentry into foster care. It is clear that all branches of state government have a role to play in improving the safety of children. The RFP provides examples of strategies that could be employed by each branch. Strong interagency collaboration is critical to the success of state action plans as well. For example, law enforcement is one of the key professions involved in the child protection system, investigating the most serious cases of maltreatment involving serious injury, sexual assault, and death. Therefore, it may be prudent for a state to consider appointing a law enforcement official and the selection of their core team or their home team if that is relevant to their state's policy plan. So moving into the major activities that are noted in the RFP, some of these activities will include attending a 2.5-day Policy Institute meeting. And at this meeting, we require that all 6 members that have been designated as core team members must be able to attend. That meeting is scheduled for July 20th through the 22nd. States will also participate in one in-state site visit with staff from the three-branch partner organizations and expert faculty. Those site visits will be scheduled for August up through the end of this calendar year. States will also receive targeted technical assistance from NGA staff, NGA Center staff, as well as our staff, our partners in our organizations that are working with us on this effort, and national experts. Technical assistance activities can include reviewing versions of the team's plan, proposals, policies, or executive orders, providing strategic advice on specific policy and program questions and plan development, or we're happy to also make presentations at or facilitate meetings in your state, among several other activities that are actually listed in the RFP. So I encourage you to take a look very closely at the dates. The ones of most relevance at the moment are the proposal being due Monday, May 16th, and then the selection announcement coming on or before June 6th. The RFP lists the application guidelines and selection criteria. Rather than repeat these back to you, let me just point out a few important items. Please note that we will only accept one application per state. State applications must include a letter of support from the governor and a letter of approval from legislative leadership in the appropriate chamber. Please account for the additional time that this step often takes, and be sure to carefully review the additional information provided in the RFP that lists what details those letters should include. The bulk of the selection criteria involve using the narrative to describe your state's existing challenges, desired outcomes, and the relationship of the anticipated effort to other state objectives. So please pay special attention to those points within the RFP. We would also encourage you to pay attention to team composition. States must designate 6 members, as I mentioned earlier, 2 from each branch of state government, and those folks must be able to be available to attend the three-branch Insitute meeting that's taking place July 20th through the 22nd. The NGA Center and NCSL will reimburse travel expenses from that meeting. We encourage you to create a home team as well with expanded representation from each of the branches, as well as other relevant stakeholders in your state. Nina will discuss the home team and potential members for you to consider a little bit later in this webinar. We expect states to convene that home team at least once following the July three-branch Insitute meeting. The home team convening can be scheduled in concurrence with a site visit from representatives of the three-branch partner organizations. The team leader that is designated by the governor will play a key leadership role throughout the Policy Institute process. In addition, the team leader will serve as the key points of contact for the team and will be responsible for coordination of state team activities before, during, and after the Institute. States may also want to consider the appointment of a project coordinator that can manage the day-to-day work associated with the three-branch plan. And again, we're happy at NGA and NCSL and our partner organizations to help you think through who that might be in your state. The most effective teams that attend the national meeting, and this is based on our years of experience running these meetings, often spend substantial time preparing for that meeting prior to July 20th, including meeting in advance, talking through their plans, all of that good stuff. In addition, active team participation during the meeting and a strong commitment to completing that process back home will lead to successful implementation of your state's strategic action plan. And last but not least, I'll reiterate that states must submit applications electronically by 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday, May 16th. Instructions can be found in the RFP. We will email you upon receipt of your application, and if you don't receive confirmation within 24 hours, please call us. So with that, I will now turn the webinar back over to Nina Williams-Embang, who will describe the legislative and judicial roles in the Institute, as well as the expanded home team. Nina?
Thanks so much, Alex. As you all saw in the RFP, we ask that you reach out to legislative leadership in your state, that'd be the Senate President or Speaker of the House, to request that they nominate Human Services or Children's Services Committee chairs to participate. NCSL has also contacted legislative leadership in each state to inform them of the RFP. And we ask that you submit a letter of approval from legislative leadership and a letter of intent from the legislator that has been nominated, indicating their commitment to serve as a member of the team, which will include attending the July 20 through 22nd, 2016 meeting. NCSL will work closely with state lawmakers and states elected to participate in the Institute. Specific roles for core team leaders for core team legislators will include participating in all aspects of planning in advance of the July 20th through 22nd meeting, including in the development of the proposal, of course, attending the July 20th to 22nd meeting, and participating in crafting, implementing, and monitoring the strategic plan, which the state team will develop at that meeting, developing the development of a legislator action plan, which will be part of the state team's strategic plan. We also ask that legislators lead efforts to recruit legislators and legislative staff to be members of the expanded home team, to communicate with that team regularly, and to meet with them during those home team meetings. We ask that they participate in hosting an in-state legislative meeting, which will be part of the technical assistance visit that they will receive from Insitute project staff. We ask that they participate in all state conference calls and webinars, and communicate regularly with NCSL on the progress of the work and to let us know if they have any needs or concerns. We ask that they participate in all aspects of planning in advance of the July 20th meeting, which I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that's the legislative piece. Now for information on the judicial role in the Institute. The National Center for State Courts and the National Council for Juvenile and Family Court Judges will work with judicial branch members on state teams to engage them in the work of the Institute and meet their specific needs. Judicial branch members are expected to participate in all aspects of planning in advance of the July 20th meeting, attend the meeting, and participate in crafting, implementing, and monitoring the strategic plan that the state team will develop, and similar to the legislators, to develop a judicial action plan, again, which will be part of the state team's strategic plan, and to lead efforts to recruit judicial staff or leaders of administrative office of the court, key judges, and others to be part of the expanded home team, as well as communicating with that home team regularly and meeting with them during the home team meetings. Another important piece, which you would have seen referenced in the RFP, is the expanded home teams. Core team members, and those are the folks that will be attending the July 20th meeting, will assist in the recruitment of the expanded home team, which should include representation from each of the branches and as well as other relevant stakeholders, some of which we've listed here. The team will meet regularly, host a site visit, and implement and monitor the state's strategic plan. Some of the stakeholders we've listed here, I will not go through the whole list, but this is just to give you an idea of the kinds of folks that might be critical to be on the expanded home team to carry out the work that's been developed in the strategic plan. County and local public leaders, representatives from the medical community, from education, child mental health or behavioral health agency leaders, certainly legislators, judicial staff, foster care youth or foster care alumni, tribal leaders, law enforcement, and other public safety officials, Office of the Attorney General, certainly state, local, and regional child death review team members. I will now pass this back to Megan McCann, who will walk us through some question and answers.
Thank you, Nina. The next several slides include some anticipated questions and answers that we thought might be relevant to all participants in today's webinar. The first is about definitions of child safety and child fatality and near fatalities. I'll turn it over to Peter Pecora from Casey Family Programs, who will give us a brief description of these terms. Peter, are you there?
Thanks. Yeah, sure. It's, one of the things that I know some may be wondering about is, well, what do we mean by child safety? And so this is child safety from child maltreatment as contrasted with a more public health or public safety type of issue where the issue is children drowning in pools or infant car seat safety. So, for some of the legislative staff, they may be asking that, and it's a very important question because it sets the parameters of the work. Another area, and we do find that based on our work in evaluating ECRID rapid safety feedback and some other safety and risk models, that states do vary in how they define what is a near fatality. And so we know that the team here does know that may vary, and that a state might choose to focus on child fatalities or near fatalities or a specific form of abuse or neglect as part of their three-branch institute project. So there is a fair amount of flexibility there, but it is child maltreatment-related safety there. We might go to the next slide. We can do that if that will be helpful. And there were a couple other Q&A questions, and if any of you folks want me to handle those, I can.
All right, thank you, Peter. We will definitely loop you in on these next ones. I'm going to pass it over to Nina to talk about defining the population, and then we'll...
That's great. Yeah. I can step in later if there's a question I can help with. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you so much, Megan and Peter. We came up with some questions that we thought would be useful to folks and would come from folks generally, and hopefully answer some of these in advance. Will this institute focus solely on children and youth at risk of out-of-home placement, or children and youth currently receiving child welfare services, or both? Well, the Institute will focus both on children known to the child welfare system and on those not yet known to child welfare, but who might be at risk of child welfare involvement. One thing we've learned from the Commission's research is that a number of children who have been victims of child fatality were not known to child welfare, but were known to law enforcement or hospitals or other, important parts of the community. Another question, should states consider strategies to address child safety that span the continuum of child welfare practice, from the initial maltreatment investigations to post-reunification services? The best safety and risk assessment models do use a consistent approach throughout the services continuum, from CPS hotline involvement through permanency planning and case closure. So a state could focus on fully implementing a model throughout, or they could focus on a particular area of the continuum where their approach to safety assessment and safety planning has not yet been fully designed or implemented. What is the overarching goal of this project? The overarching goal of the 2016 Institute is to develop a comprehensive cross-agency and cross-branch response to child safety in a particular area or across the continuum of child welfare services. This might involve developing protocols to keep children safe, and in some cases, the work might involve setting statewide standards and our performance targets for safety response and intervention. Alex?
Thanks, Nina. The next couple of questions are pretty easy. We'll breeze through those, and then we'll open up for Q&A. And I believe my colleague Megan McCann has been monitoring the chat box for your questions. So a question that we somewhat touched on earlier, how connected will this three-branch institute be to the work of the Federal Commission to eliminate child abuse and neglect fatalities? The answer to the question is really it depends on how closely your state's proposed projects might touch on the issues that are raised in that report. And again, that report is available online, but also I think there is a resource box at the top right-hand corner of this of the webinar space. So Megan will review that again for you all if you didn't hear that earlier. There's a link to the report, or else the report itself is available within that box. But if your state's plan is related to some of the areas that the report touches upon, your state would obviously benefit from the careful thinking of the Commission in those particular areas. And so the last question that we raised that we thought states might be interested in, and again, we've touched on this earlier, so we won't spend a lot of time, is in addition to Child Protective Services, will states be required to engage other agencies, and if so, which ones? The answer to that is yes. We are asking that states engage other agencies as relevant to your state's particular area of focus. So for example, I spoke a little bit earlier about law enforcement. If your plan happens to sort of get into that space, we would expect that you would engage law enforcement officials either on the core or the home team as relevant. Also engaging juvenile court system, mental health, public assistance, education, housing. These all might be great ideas depending on the policy focus and the practice focus of your plan. So with that, I will turn the webinar over to Megan to help facilitate the Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. And I'll first ask Peter, do you have anything to add to some of those Q&As?
Nope, not right at this time. I'll wait for questions. Thank you.
Okay. So one question that I can answer is whether the PowerPoint will be distributed. And yes, we will archive this webinar, will be available online on NCSL's Three Branch Institute webpage, in addition to the PowerPoint and additional resources, including the commission information and report. And I included the link to our Three Branch Institute webpage in the chat box, so you can use that. Or I think Googling NCSL Three Branch Institute seems to work for me as well. So that is that question. We had another question about where the meeting in July is going to be, as there have been some questions about that. I'm actually going to kick that over to Alex.
Sure.
About that.
So NCA is currently working on nailing down a location for the meeting. We're anticipating that we'll be able to let everyone know where that meeting will be by next week. So we'll definitely be back in touch with all of you to let you know.
Excellent, thank you. And we did have a question about providing some real-world examples of perceived potential successes. And I'll let Nina or Alex or anyone sort of talk about what we mean by perceived potential successes. Or we can...
Nina, do you want to start on that one?
Sure, Alex. Perceived potential successes. Well, I sort of think in terms of how the initiative will proceed. The state teams will develop a strategic plan, a comprehensive plan across all three branches of government. And in that plan, the team will set benchmarks and goals. There will be a timeline. They will be able to record what other entities and stakeholders will be involved in the development of the plan. And it's at that point where the team will come up with what they would perceive as a potential success. The success could be anything from, yes, let's go back and look at the last 5 years of child fatalities in our state. Let's take a comprehensive look at those fatalities and see what we can glean from that and how we can use that data to inform how to prevent child fatalities in the future and how that might affect changes in our CPS hotline system, changes in our mandatory reporting, or other important key stakeholders that we need to involve in this process. That's just an example. States could look at reducing the numbers of child fatalities, regularly counting child fatalities, and being more involved in the child fatality review process, those kinds of things. Alex, do you have any more to add to that, or perhaps Peter?
I think you captured it very well in terms of the breadth of opportunity there, just depending on what the state would most want to focus on.
Okay, well, we'll move on. We have one more question here. Please feel free to ask more questions in the chat box if you have them. We have about 30 minutes left on the webinar, so feel free to use up all that time and ask us as many questions as you have. So the next question is, if existing relationships and collaborations are already in place between the executive, legislative, and judicial offices, how do you believe participation in this proposal will differ or not?
I think that's an excellent question. This is Peter Pecora again from Casey and PW. Colin asked a great question because I think this offers an opportunity to deepen that relationship and to, with technical assistance from the project team and their subject matter experts, and from talking with allied states who are also working in this space, there would be opportunities probably to deepen the thinking and enhance the strategies that an existing partnership within the state might be already working on. So it might be an excellent opportunity to sort of deepen what you already have, or get some additional pro bono technical assistance on some areas that you're working through and would like some, extra brain power added to the effort.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. This is Nina. I think from our experience, it's also an excellent opportunity to spend 2.5 days focusing on that topic, completely away, almost completely away from everything else, and really giving a focused look at an issue. And some states have indeed been able to do that, and they've already had a relationship in place.
And this is Alex. I think Nina and Peter both covered this question very well. The only thing I'll add and want to emphasize is that the peer sharing element of this opportunity is especially helpful and especially valuable, I think, to states. It's not often that you get into a room for 2.5 days, and then beyond that, in the context of maybe peer site visits or having regular phone calls, webinars with your peers in other states that are also going through this process at the same time. So there's so much learning and so many great connections that could be made across states in addition to deepening those partnerships within your state.
All right, thank you. I'm going to pitch one last time that we're here to answer any questions that you have, either about the meeting in July, the proposals that are due here in a few weeks, or the topic of child fatality and child safety itself. So I'll leave it open. We've got the chat box open if you'd like to ask any more questions. All right, well, it doesn't look like we have any. Feel free to ask them as we go. But just again, a reminder that this webinar will be posted on the NCSL's 3-Branch Institute webpage, along with other resources. The Commission to Eliminate Child Abuse and Neglect Fatalities report is linked there, as well as some other information about the Institute and contact information for NCSL, NGA, and others. So with that, if we don't have any more questions, our contact information is on the PowerPoint here. It's on our website, and it is in the RFP as well. So please give us a call if you have any questions as the process moves on. And I know we are really excited about the meeting in July. So any last thoughts or comments from Nina, Alex, or Peter?
Well, from Nina, NCSL is very excited to participate in this, and we look forward to hearing from you all. If you need any assistance at all reaching out to legislative leadership as you're developing the proposal, please contact. We'll certainly be glad to assist with that. That's not a problem at all. You can either contact Alex or contact myself directly, and we'd be happy to assist in that process. We know sometimes that can be difficult, but we'd be glad to help you with that.
And this is Alex at NGA. One thing I'll add is that I believe in one of either the invitation letter or the RFP itself, we said that there is pre-application consultation available upon request. So I'm putting that out there again. If there's any state that would like to connect with NGA, NCSL, our court partners, or Casey Family programs to talk about your potential state plans, the direction of your application, or just generally get some guidance, please feel free to reach out. We definitely are, making ourselves available to you all to make sure that we get good, strong applications for this opportunity. So I'll just say thank you again for your time.
Peter, do you have any parting thoughts for us?
No, just I think the team will be very, very prepared to entertain any questions as people go. And I know sometimes the issues can get a little technical too. So that's where reaching out to the subject matter experts you have at your at ready reference there will be great for each of the states that might need a little extra help while they're preparing that proposal. That was great to hear that.
All
we'll stand by.
All right, thank you, Peter. It doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I'll sign off here and thank Nina from NCSL, Alex Cawthorn from NGA, and Peter Pecora from Casey Family Programs. And again, contact us with any other questions.